Hey, what's up? So I had a whole script written up for this video. I was going to complain about the state of supports in Guild Wars 2 and how some of them feel a little bit spammy. A lot of them you kind of just pick a trait that'll now apply quickness or alacrity when you use a certain type of skill. But, you know, it's been kind of a crazy week for Guild Wars 2, crazy month actually. We had the June patch that threw a lot of the game's balance off. A lot of support classes were nerfed, some of them totally gutted, but we also got a lot of new ones. And that's kind of what I want to talk about instead. I want to talk about how there's been some new exciting builds that have opened up with the June patch. This is kind of an exciting time. I mean, the last month, I haven't uploaded anything because I've been so stuck into playing Guild Wars. I've been playing, you know, most days when I have free time. And at the moment, I'm kind of struggling to figure out what class I want to main. And it's kind of difficult because I think a lot of classes at the moment have really cool, new, interesting boon builds. And I just can't decide on what I want to play the most. But the spec that I have been playing a lot is Herald. I didn't play a lot of Herald before. Certainly before this balance patch, I basically never touched Herald outside of open world stuff. As mentioned previously, Vindicator has been my main for a while, but my love for Vindicator has died because Herald is now my favorite spec in the entire game. I mean, that's kind of why I scrapped the scripted video, because I was complaining about how spammy some of these supports are, but I'm really enjoying Herald, which is very spammy. Basically, what this spec has given me is the sort of Dragon Knight fantasy. Herald has always existed, of course, but I didn't really have a huge reason to play it because it wasn't providing any of those key boons. So those key boons are, of course, quickness and alacrity. Quickness will increase skill speed, and alacrity will decrease the cooldown on your abilities. If you see those rolls in the LFG, that's what that means. So this is a great entry into raids, as it'll allow you to fill that quickness role. Obviously, you want these boons, because if your team is attacking twice as fast, then the boss is going to die in half the time. That is indeed how math works, and if you kill the boss faster, you're less likely to wipe. Previously, Herald didn't provide either of these two boons, so if you enjoyed the spec before, then that's a feels bad, man. It didn't really have a comfortable spot in instanced content, but with the June balance patch, Herald got an update to one of its traits, allowing your facet skills to grant quickness when you consume them. And facets are basically the utilities that you see down the bottom when you're in glint stance. Now, Herald's typical playstyle is that you're supposed to sort of have this spinning multiple plates deal where you can hit your facets and either keep them channeling boons that are just pumping out while it drains your energy, or you can consume them for a secondary effect. Now, there's a lot of cool effects to these utilities, but the main reason you're going to be using them is to provide quickness to your party now. So you end up just spamming them off cooldown to upkeep quickness. Now, design-wise, I don't love this. I don't love spamming skills off cooldown and ignoring their actual intended purpose. But the animations on Herald look so cool that I don't mind pressing them all the time. I love seeing the massive dragon go off. It's just a cool skill, and I love being able to use it more outside of just using it for crowd control. But now you kind of had this interesting interaction where you're trying to decide whether you want to use the skill to upkeep your quickness or hold it for a second because you know that there's going to be a break bar coming up that you need to break. Everything else you kind of press off cooldown except for the heal skill, where sometimes you just want to have that facet flipped over and channeling the whole time to provide some passive healing to your party. So on that, there's basically two key Herald builds going around right now. There's one that's basically power DPS while also providing quickness, and another that's a healer while also providing quickness. I think it's a very beginner-friendly build. Obviously, Firebrand is kind of the main quickness provider that everyone wants at the moment, but it's a little bit complicated for new players. It's not that hard to upkeep the quickness, but I think it gets a little bit overwhelming given that you have, you know, like 3-4 separate hotbars that you can flick through and whatever. But I find this Herald build so easy and forgiving to play. So for both builds, you're basically going to be camping Glint and spamming all your facets off cooldown to provide quickness. Where they differ is in your traits, but also in the second legend that you decide to run. For the DPS variant, you're probably going to be running Shiro or Jarlath. And for the healer variant, you're going to be running Ventari. Now the DPS build is very easy to play. As I said, you basically just spam all your facets off cooldown in Glint. You can hold some, but if you're playing the DPS build, you probably don't have a lot of concentration, so you're going to be wanting to spam all of them to upkeep quickness. In terms of weapon skills, you'll basically be wielding dual swords, staff in the second slot just for when you need CC, but other than that, you're not going to be doing much weapon swapping. And you're just going to be using your highest damage sword skills off cooldown, the 2, the 5, the 4. Now, while you're in Glint, you're not going to be draining any energy because you're consuming those skills as soon as they're up. And this gives you a lot of room to basically use whatever weapon skills you want without running out of energy. And it also gives you a lot of room to upkeep the heal and the elite skill. If you need some more survivability, the heal skill is going to pulse regeneration and the elite skill is going to pulse protection. Now, once you've stacked up enough quickness, usually after 2 rotations of spamming those skills, you're going to swap over to Shiro or Jarlath and you're going to hit the 1 upkeep skill that they have that basically provides you bonus damage. And from there, you're basically just auto attacking and using your number 2 sword skill off cooldown because that skill doesn't use that much energy. And then as soon as Glint is back up, you swap back to Glint and you start all over again and you press the facets on cooldown so you can provide more quickness. One thing I forgot to mention as well is that your facet of nature, you're basically going to keep that on upkeep. You're not going to consume it. It will extend not only the boons that you're providing, but also the boons that the rest of the team are providing, which is very handy if there's a lack of uptime on some of those boons. But yeah, that's the DPS variant. Very easy. Again, just spamming Glint skills off cooldown, saving some if you can afford to. Moving on to the heal variant, you're going to be running sword and shield. The shield 4 is going to be able to upkeep a lot of protection for your party, which is giving them 33% reduced incoming damage, by the way. And the shield 5 you're going to use if you can't afford to move or there is nowhere to move to. If you're about to be slam dunked by some boss attack, then you can hit shield 5 and you'll block everything. And you'll also be using sword 2 whenever it's up just for some extra DPS. And then like the DPS rotation, you're going to be spamming all those Glint skills off cooldown so that you can provide quickness. In the second legend slot, you're going to be running Ventari. Now, I love Ventari. I've always loved the Ventari stance. The tablet mechanic is super cool. In fact, when Catalyst was announced, I was really hoping that it was going to be about having a ball that you knock around the arena that provides boons in an area, basically exactly like Ventari tablet, because I think it's just such an interesting healing mechanic. It's so unique in the Guild Wars 2 landscape. There's just nothing like it. So basically how this works is that you chuck down a tablet and you can move the tablet around. The tablet actually got recent updates to allow you to move it faster and more often, which makes it very fun to use. It'll heal in an area over time, but you've also got a bunch of different tablet skills for different utility. You've got a Condi cleanse there. You've got a massive burst heal on a 2-second cooldown, by the way. When you're in full Harrier's gear, this thing does like 6,000 hit points of heal. And you've also got a projectile block dome thing that sits over your tablet. And this is actually the upkeep skill for Ventari. So you can have the bubble shield sitting around your tablet while you move it around. It's going to drain the energy very fast, so you have to, keep track of that. This was previously abused a lot in the Bone Skinner strike. But now with the Harvest Temple strike, in the last phase, there's a point where the Void Orb is moving around the arena and everyone has to hit it from all different sides so it doesn't move off the platforms. But while you're trying to DPS it and it's moving around the arena, you've also got these orbs that are just spewing out of it. And quite often in pug groups, people are going to be hit by those. They do a lot of damage. They're going to down people very fast. But with the Ventari tablet, if you use the projectile bubble and you just keep moving it over the orb as it moves around the arena, it's going to soak up all of those little bullet hell bubbles that are coming from the orb, which makes this phase so much easier. If you're in an organized group and you do this fight pretty often, probably not that much of an issue, but if you're playing with public groups, this definitely comes in handy. Now, I'll admit there's a lot more micromanagement with this build because you can't stay in Ventari for very long trying to heal your allies because you need to get back into Glint at some point to start spamming those facet skills as soon as possible so you can provide some more quickness to the party. But in full Harrier's gear, which has concentration on it, you're going to very quickly stack up on quickness and have a lot of leeway to be able to sit in Ventari tablet for as long as you need. Same with the DPS build as well. If you find that it's a little bit too tight and your knuckles are getting sore from spamming those keys too much, you can always add some more boon duration in the form of concentration stat, which if you're playing DPS is the Diviner's Gear that's going to give you basically the exact same stats as Berserkers, but with some concentration. So you can use as much of that as you like to get that boon duration to a comfortable level. Now in terms of viability, I've played this in Fractals, Raids, Strikes, and even the Strike Challenge modes. I'm now easily clearing the first 2 Strike Challenge modes weekly, as I think Herald's really simple playstyle allowed me to properly focus on learning the mechanics. And there's a lot of new teams clearing Harvest Temple Challenge mode, of which there's been some Heralds in those squads. Anyway, that's my little ramble about this Dragon Knight build that's going around. I'm really loving it. I think it is incredibly underrated and very easy to pick up if you're a new player. So yeah, not much else to say about that. That's how Quickness Herald plays. I'm really enjoying it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you try it out. But as well, a little bit of a life update. This is a new apartment that I've moved into. This happened like 2 months ago, but I'm only just now feeling settled in. I've been playing a lot of Guild Wars 2 recently. Specifically, I've been playing a heap of raids because I am just so focused on finishing up my legendary armor. I've actually only got 1 piece to go. So after I get the shoulders, I've got full legendary armor, and then I'm gonna work on, all the trinkets, back piece, that sort of thing. If you enjoyed this video, this random ramble, I hope you stick around. But until then, I'll catch you later.